Hang on. There we go. Hey guys, welcome to another Tarcy Talk. We are on the last episode before school actually starts. So school starts this week for those who are Pisay, for those alumni who are watching, are studying in UP. You are currently enjoying your break between mid-year and the first sem. If you are an Ateneo like me, it's weird to call myself Atenean. If you're Ateneo like me, you've already begun your classes last week and are already exploring Canvas and submitting personal details. So yeah, we've got that going for us. Okay. So yeah. So this is still a warm-up class. Again, we're kind of trying to target ourselves to precise students still, but of course trying to make it broad enough so that other students can also pick something up. And this is going to be our last warm-up class before we resume regular. Honestly, nothing's really going to change on the channel. We're just going to keep on uploading things or keep on streaming and talking about different issues. It's only the title that changes. And yes, Joshua, I am not watching my own stream. I don't think the manager view counts. So, okay. So today's topic. Let me just fix my camera a little. Okay, there we go. So today's topic, we're going to talk about the overlap of school and home in online learning. So, like we mentioned last week, Ricky and I have been going through a bunch of talks, trainings, in preparation for the school year. So normally it's those few weeks before the school year that attend these things so that we can have that additional bit of preparation for the school year. And one of the speakers from last week was discussing classroom management in online learning. And it was brought up, basically, at least from the speaker's perspective, that the way that they're doing classroom management is to what are the analogies of uh, learning in school and learning at home and how do you translate them. So yeah, that's what we'll be talking about this. And I won't go into it too much because I Joshua needs to weigh in, and we also have a guests for this stream. So guest is a student of Pisay. So and she mentioned that she wanted to come in and contribute. So yeah, we're kind of open like that. So if you kind of want to, if you have a topic that you want to discuss, you're free to put it in Discord. If you want to be the one to lead the discussion, feel free to say so, and can invite you to talk. In fact, in our next few episodes, I think we'll be having a number of guests. Though some of these topics are the ones that Sir Q and I have prepared beforehand. So, but yeah, we'll be having a number of guests. But if you yourself want to guest, if you have a topic that you want to talk about, a burning question or some issue that you just can't understand, you don't understand why Pisay or education in general is like this, then yeah, feel free to message us, put in the Discord, and we'll see if we can work something out. Okay. With that said, let me Stefan in the Discord. Hello? Hello? Right.
Hey, Mark. Okay. I was just I'm watching the stream. That's why you're delayed. So, am I live?
Yeah, you're live. I told you. Pag nag-undeafen na ako, you're live.
You have to give us a warning, like a picture on whether or not you're on 3, 2, 1. We need to fix up our production value like this because we always I relax.
Okay.
So I'm still on the screen. Am I on screen?
No, but they can hear you. Hang on, let me just switch.
Okay. So hi everyone. That's one of the biggest burning questions. Like, why is education like this? Such a heavy, hard-hitting question for the public, for us public to hear. And the answer for that is that both me and Sir Tarcy don't know what's wrong. What's wrong with the education? No. But we'll weigh in on how we kind of think it's like that, I guess. So, I know it's weird. Sir Tarcy has this nervous energy in starting, as opposed to the other starting as opposed to the other starting episodes. For me, I'm kind of way too up high energy, going trying to normalize my energy. The reason because both of us are kind of worried because we kind of have a special guest with us right now, something that we're gonna have to introduce. So in this scenario, we're going to introduce a very special guest. She was able to surpass the two-factor authentication that we make for our guest list, which are the two questions which are, do you know her? And do you know this person? And who can vouch for her? Because me and Sir Tarcy, in this scenario, clearly we were so surprised because we're trying to think as much as we can because we know we're so bad as teachers that we forget the names of our students. But as much as we were going through our records, we really couldn't figure out, was she our student? Nakakaya naman kung biglang we don't know. Then, okay, we passed. We figured out, oh, not our student. Then suddenly, when she tweeted, it was actually a tweet that she invited herself. I wouldn't say herself in. We kind of invited everyone in, and she took the step up to actually help us out. And we were really, we were really glad with that. And the second authentication was that Edlen immediately vouched for her. So knowing Edlen, she knows her the people and she knows the students. we can really trust her. So the only thing we actually know from Yana is that she is someone aside from like avid viewer apparently. The only thing we actually know of her was that she was the host during her fair. Their batches when they hosted the fair. She was the host, and that's as much as exposure that we can remember from her. And right after that, pandemic happened. So, but yeah, without further ado, let us now welcome Yana. Yana, say hi to the audience.
Hi, hi, audience. Hi,
Okay, so
sirs.
this is her chance. She can now publicize whatever she wants. She can run any ad. She can make any video she wants. This is your time to shine. So, what are the first words that you want to say to your audience?
Hi sa mga fans ko. No,
I,
um, ayun, I'm just really happy na I'm here. Ayun, ayun.
uh, So hi to the 10 viewers here. Some of us is actually me. I'm viewing also to check if the stream's going okay. I was gonna say that the reason why we invited her was because of her followers. I was going to show her Twitter account, but the problem is her subtitle. I knew we said that uh, nothing censored here in Tarcy Talks, but when I saw her subtitle in Twitter, it's for you to judge. I'm not sure if the community guidelines on YouTube will allow.
Sir, what do you
But
mean followers?
yeah, okay, I don't want to. Okay, it's the common term is mansplaining, but I don't want to put our words into your mouth. But more of, could we hear from you? Not to inflate our ego or anything, but could we hear from you why you wanted to join us in this talk? You know how kalat our stream are for the past few days.
Well,
But go ahead.
um, I think a, a student will really like show another perspective. Kasi since both of you are teachers, like there are some questions you lie hanging, and I just sometimes I wish na oh sana I could answer those questions. And ayun, parang sabi ko, what if I just did and someone vouch for me. And ayun ayun, parang sabi ko there are questions kasi na sometimes kailangan talaga ng other perspectives, especially sa student like me na hindi ganun ka he's who's not always at the top. And ayun, parang it would be fun to show my side ganun. Or
Yeah,
I
that's
was I just want to preface first na of course I don't represent everyone in the student body.
that was my
And
question. Are you that confident that you could actually
no,
speak on behalf of all the
no,
students out there?
no, sir. I just want to say na lahat ng sabihin ko ngayon dapat just take it with a lightly kasi and I don't right now kasi not I'm in a better place, and I'm sure a lot of students are in a worse case than I am, and I just don't want to speak for them. Ayun.
Okay. Mukhang malaking hugot yun, ah. Okay, that's me nagtatagalog. More on, she does say that she's in a better place, which is something that I guess there's some things that we have to be careful. So, Yana, just flag us if ever we suddenly start, going through a minefield that we have to go through. Now, if I was
Yes, sir.
to counsel, to be the counsel, let's say, Ace Attorney to, if I were to be the counsel for Mark, so are you saying that we're kind of distant from what the students are feeling, that we're that disconnected, we're not actually hitting the points what from the past streams are?
Well, no naman, sir. What I'm just saying is, ayun, I'm just reading my no, my
Wait,
notes
let's
that I prepared.
let's
Yung first na pick up on ko is the question you asked like previous streams ago. Why do flunk students not approach teachers na parang why how many students actually approach teachers when they know na they're flunking. And ayun, I have an answer for that. I have an answer for that.
Actually, before we get there, to relate to Mark, Mark, while you were starting the stream, me and Yana got to a little bit of talking. Not small talk, more on. I wanted to see her perspective into why she wanted to join, and she did say she had several burning questions in her.
Mhm.
Qualifying for the burning, but it's something that she really wanted to feel that she needed to voice out. It's important. Remember, we did speak about feedback, and it's important that we get to hear because a lot of students here or viewers here, I feel like nahiya sila mag-comment dito sa YouTube, especially with cancel culture going out about there. Cancel culture is half good, half bad. You have to follow the due process. It's a whole different topic we'll talk about, but more on we if you're afraid to talk, try to find other ways to give feedback. So if one way is to comment pero nahiya ka, find other ways, maybe Twitter. And this is one way that Yana wanted to try to voice out and something that would actually impact to our audience. So here's her question she just posed earlier. Let's hear it from her.
What? What?
So that was the thing that you wanted to say now. Why we were asking why are there students that are having a bit of problem approaching their teachers? So you wanted to
Ah,
give us feedback related to that.
yes, sir. So, ako kasi, um, I'm normally like at the bottom of my class. So, it's like the f- for the for from grade 7 to 10, it's always been like that. And um, their teachers always like approach me and say, "What's wrong?" What like I've already
Advance,
called. Yes,
immediately outright.
yes,
How do you feel
yes,
about that?
sir.
Oh,
They
sorry,
will.
I'm cutting you out. But how do you feel
No, it's
when
okay.
teachers approach you?
Sometimes it's really sometimes I get offended kasi there are teachers who approach it really wrong, and there are teachers of course I won't name, pero there are teachers who would share it to the whole class about like
Ah,
my status. And I think they think that if people know, I would change. Like of course I want to change, pero it's more of like something I change, not what they can help to change
fudge.
me. So ayun, parang I think that a lot of flunk students don't really want to approach teachers because there is a sense of shame in it. Kasi one, you kind of course, I think, well, I think that, of course, it isn't true, but there's always a chance na you're annoying the teacher or just wasting their time. Kasi a lot of times my questions are like, what it's like I don't understand the whole thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And sometimes I think that teachers don't like that and they find it offensive. And of course, I would not want to offend teachers. And that's why I think a lot of students, especially in Klang students, they'd rather suffer by themselves than just ask for help. Or I think they would rather listen to their classmates. And
Mhm.
sometimes
Rather than a teacher.
and rather than the teachers, and sometimes classmates also have their own problems, and you just don't want to be like a burden. Ayun, parang
That's sad. Well,
no.
do you
Well,
feel
it
sad?
is.
Do you feel so? What you said was that you felt shameful to approach a teacher because it feels a burden on them, even though they say
Yes.
it's. What if they say outright, "Okay lang mong tanong kayo," you still feel that shame or a bit, or when the
um
teacher says it's okay, magtanong lang kayo, do you feel better pag ganon?
of course, like I know na they would say that, pero in a way it's more of something na you just don't want to take that chance na, because I really think that there are teachers who don't like it, na
Yeah,
parang
that's true.
like kaya you just don't want to try na lang. I think
Hmm.
that's a lot of majority of the problem. You don't want to try. Students don't want to try because it will show na they'd rather fail than try. Kasi
That's
people would say they
sad.
tried. They tried. That's what people would say. Ayun. It's not sad.
So
I think I'm talking too much.
it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. But in this scenario, me and Sir Tarsi are very confident to listen to this because neither of us were your teachers, so we're confident hindi kami yon. But in this scenario,
Yes.
if I were to, okay, I know this is a little bit off tangent, but it could be a little bit tangent later on. If I were to ask Sir Tarsi, um, are we safe to name drop who those teachers were? Of course not. We're not that kind of
No,
channel.
no,
Do we want to be a drama channel? I meant we would get more likes that way.
no,
More,
we're not that channel.
just kidding. But okay, if with what Diana said, if I were to ask you, Mark, as a teacher, how would you approach this? I mean, do you feel like you're guilty in a way in that you kind of somehow like outmention na, oh, tatlo lang sa inyo pumasa sa exam na to. Would you actually say that in class?
I mean, I wouldn't go as far as to say na tatlo, pero I would say that performance
Say
support
dito
because
na tatlo, ganun ba?
no, kasi I feel like okay. So say for example, I'm in a scenario that a lot of students fail an exam.
Mhm.
I think as a teacher, parang it's part of our job to give feedback, and okay, we could give that feedback individually, but at the same time, uh, when I'm doing that, for example, if I'm announcing that, okay, class, I noticed that the passing rate is below, it's below 50%, or something like that. That's
Mhm.
more of my invitation for them to tell me why. Na parang, okay, is there something a
Ah,
problem with the way I'm teaching? Is there a problem with the assessment? Is there so parang that's my goal in and out. Hindi yung ipahiya yung mga karamihan ng maksak. Now,
now my
as
question is,
hmm,
I'm sorry. Before you, maybe you can
sige,
relate it to what I'm gonna ask.
okay, go.
Now, Yana did post the answer early. She posted the situation where it's really hard for a student to reach out, especially not only in class but sometimes even outside of the classroom, because maybe sometimes the teachers really like that, or sometimes because of her experience or other students' experience, several teachers have been like that. Therefore, it's safe to assume maybe it's a wrong assumption, but maybe it's a safe assumption as well that future teachers will be like that as well.
Mm.
So is there a thing that the teacher has to go an extra mile for the student? Because I think this is something that we also hear a lot from the teacher side. Like we always wait for the student to reach out na mag feedback or mag consult pero hindi naman sila dumarating. In this scenario, how would you comment on this?
Okay, yung ko dyan is, well, we talked about it a bit when we discussed feedback, that providing different avenues for feedback, it's better. So parang you have maybe a form, they can contact you, so parang you have different ways so that whatever the student is more comfortable with, then they can give their feedback. But I think yung best bet natin dito, kasi the teacher varies. The teacher is a variable that we can't control na depending on their personality, they can be super approachable, maybe they're a bit more cold in this sense, pero they're actually willing. They might actually be pataray na they don't want to be bothered in these particular hours, or they don't like particular kinds of questions. My idea of the best way to approach this is that, how do I put this? Okay, let me just go blunt. Let me just go blunt.
Are we hitting your minefield right now
No,
in this
not
scenario?
not really. Pero parang, I mean, it's going to be hard to implement because the one who's picking up the burden is the student. Because
Mhm.
my idea of how this should be addressed, or parang the best way that to ensure parang equality of being able, quality of accessibility to giving feedback, to getting help, is that the students need to be confident in their right to ask for questions, to ask for help. Na regardless of what the teacher's reaction is, na parang pataray nga siya, or parang it is a student's right to ask for help.
Mhm.
And it is the teacher's job to give that help. Maybe the teacher can specify how that help is given, but the students need to realize na yun nga, parang it is actually within their power to go to a teacher and ask for help, and that they are fully within their right to do so. Kasi yung nangyari ngayon is, I feel like students aren't aware of what they're allowed to do. Am I allowed to ask this? Am I allowed to ask that? But parang, if we actually think about it, the job of the teacher really is to answer those questions that a student might have. So if students can be more aware of that idea, I know it's difficult. I know it's difficult. It's basically us telling the students, no, I mean, go ask questions. It's just in your head. I know it feels like that, definitely. And we're basically placing the burden of fixing this on students. I get it. It's difficult. Of course, just as there's a variety between teachers, there's also variety between students. Some will need to reach out to more by the teacher. Pero yun nga, parang I think if the two recognize, so the teacher recognizes that it's his job to answer questions and it's the student's right to ask questions, then hopefully we can bridge that difficult gap. And then, of course, you have teachers reaching out, you have students reaching out. So hopefully there's a good balance between.
Now, for the audience that's there, we're not actually falling asleep. It's just so happened the bandwidth is so slow that mukhang nakapikit lang yung mga mata namin at Oo. But yeah, I see. You have to understand, for the audience out there, it's actually somewhere where it's actually an unadventured ground. Although that question has been there for how many, I wouldn't say centuries, but for a long, long time. Mark said that, in here, Sir Tarcy said that it needs to be recognized as a right. And I think, like what Yana said, is nahihiya talaga sila. But in this scenario, we really, also the teachers, but also even student government in this scenario. That's why I'm pushing for the constitutional change for the student council, for the student body in that scenario, to push for identify what are the rights that the students may demand, so that they may be able to shamelessly ask for it. But let's not make it all the way to that point that it has to reach there. That why do we have to be push and pull all the way to the part that we have to resort to conflict resolution? Why not that we resolve it in the class level? So there's a lot of things that we also have to understand in the part of the teachers, which is, I think, it's kind of a long way to go. But there's something that says that with the recent HR meeting, we found out that there are a lot of younger teachers. Now, I'm not saying that it's the older teachers that have a problem here. It could even be the younger teachers. But in that scenario, I guess we can say that it's a problem worth solving. Now, if I were to ask Yana, had this come about, do you think that would you feel that you would have been able to change the way how you study if you could be able to shamelessly ask questions, even though natanong na siya, na feeling mo baka i-judge ako ng classmates ko or ng teacher ko, but if you can freely ask for that question, do you think that your study might have changed back then?
Well, I don't really think that I can answer that kasi I don't
Spoken like
really
a true politician. Wow.
no, ano ba yan, sir, na wala na ako? um, uh, sir, sir, ginolo niyo ako. What I was saying is, I don't think that I could answer that now kasi, I think, I should say na, ngayong grade 11 na and now 12, I think tumaas talaga grades ko kasi nasa bahay na ako. And that was really a big thing sa akin kasi I think nung face to face kasi I'm a dormer kasi, so I just stay at the dorms or just generally away from my family. So I think na probably, maybe, if I didn't have shame in it, but I can't also say na, of course I reached out to friends and reached out to teachers, but there are also times na I can't kasi
Mhm.
I had a lot of problems ng face to face. And ayun, parang I really believe na it's really not, in a way it's not, and it is, but
It's the teacher's fault. Oh my God. Is that what you're saying?
oh, wait, Am I not making sense? No.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. There's
Um.
a huge gap. You did say that it's a huge difference. You see the difference from how you were performing back then in grade 10, when it was face to face, as opposed to when it was grade 11. You said that you're getting better now, right? It's not face to face anymore, but the correlation is that the difference was that you're working from away from school. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Just to answer yung previous question, it's not really because of shame talaga.
Okay.
It's not just that. I think it's just there are times then na I consult and I go after and I just don't understand pa rin. And
Really? Oh,
I just go, okay, okay, and then I go out of the room, consultation room, and just not understand anything, and I just go home and think it's a waste of time
oh,
for
okay.
both parties. So there's when you get past the shame, there's always like another layer of
of
do I understand pa rin or not? I think
oh,
that's another layer. So
yeah, yeah. It's actually a actual layer. In this scenario, if I can, sorry, I'm steering it away from Yana, but if you could allow an analogy, we had a student back then. I had a student back then in grade 9. Her name was Shek. Oh, so we'll call her Shek. Or sige, I'll just. uh, but in this scenario, she was very brilliant when it comes to class. But the problem was that she had difficulty when it comes to test, and I figured out that yeah, it was something that not only her. I also had other students that were they were very good when it comes to recitation, when it comes to short quizzes, but when it comes to the longer tests, that's when they really flunk out. And it's really weird because when I check their notes, completo naman. When I ask them face to face, they can answer. But sorry, Kenzo. But in this scenario, it it made me realize that it's an actual thing, and it's not something that I'm saying it's very weird, but I'm just saying that it actually exists. Because no matter how much I try to analyze it at different parts, it needs to be, I guess for me, it needs to be further studied. Now in this scenario, I was thinking of in my at the back of my mind, I was trying to think, how can we segue to the topic right now? I know we've been talking about the previous topics that we were answering, Yana, but apparently Yana so flawlessly was able to segue for us. So I think she kind of already prepared for this 3 minutes this scenario. But
uh,
she did give us a scenario where there's a difference for her. That why is it that now that she's studying in a different environment as opposed to in school, how come in her situation works? Now a lot of people I'd be expecting, well, not naman expecting because that would be assuming, more on people will be saying sana all, because people will start saying na medyo bakit ako nahirapan ako mag-aral and mag-aral at sa bahay as opposed to face school. So Yana would be more on the outlier that we not put aside, but will contrast with other people. That's the good thing about here. We see that there are actually outliers out there that we can compare with and figure out what's wrong with them. No, no, not what's wrong with them, but figure out what are they doing, and maybe we can figure out how we can apply it. We can ask for her tips. Now, before we get to that part, let's have our sponsors first. So, that's good.
I will server mute you.
Actually, no, if we can ask, we always, if you'd notice, we have something in our the way how we format our talks is that we always give our experiences first, then what should be done, and how can it be done. So in this scenario, we want to talk about the experiences more in depth on how is it affecting me, Sir Tarcy, and Yana here. And also for people in chat, please, you're part of this discussion. We will mention you, don't worry. By the way, for those that would want a shout out, just mention here, Yana's here to give out shout outs if you want. Do you charge Yana for shout outs? Would you
uh,
charge? No?
me or sir? Wait,
Okay.
huh?
Let me know if I'm talking too fast. Okay, in this scenario, let's ask Sir Tarcy first. How is your learning environment now that we're in a online setup? What is it for you? How do you feel about this?
As a student or as a teacher? Kasi that
No, that's the
applies
thing.
to
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna try to elicit from that you later on, but okay, we'll jump to that chapter now. But yeah, as a teacher, we have to take note. Sir Tarcy isn't just a teacher, but also a student as well. So in this scenario, I'll one up that later on when I share my experience. But you go, Mark. How would you explain your situation?
honestly, for me, it's kind of a package deal. I can't really talk about being a student or being a teacher without discussing the other. And as for the experience, honestly, I remember when it was announced that school would be online. I remember thinking that it's a huge bonus for me, plus for me, because it would allow me to take on as many units as I can for studies at the same time, work full
Oh,
time
okay. Now,
without
in that scenario, I thought you were gonna say na, yes, di ko na makita yung mga estudyante ko.
no.
Okay, no. No. Okay, by the way, me and Sir Tarsi, very different experience on how we said when we heard no more face to face. But for him, advantage because he can take up more units. Mean to say he can sideline all his teaching.
I
Is that
mean,
true?
from a professional perspective, I mean, obviously, it allows me the freedom. So yun nga, kasi prior to online studying, online teaching, online learning, I had the maximum units I could take in Ateneo was 6 units because that means that I'd have 2 days of a week that I'd have to leave Pisay early to go to Ateneo. But with online learning, doesn't really matter because all I need to do is open another browser, and then I'm pretty much good to go. I can study and teach at the same time. On a working level, I would say that teaching is more difficult in an online setting because for me, a big part of teaching was being in the classroom. That you could see your students, that I could walk around, I could see their code, and I could just point what the problem was. So nowadays, especially at the start of the year, we were asynchronous. So I couldn't really gauge the progress of students until they actually submitted something to me. If they did submit, it was even harder if no one submitted. Then you'd have to go through the problem of emailing or messaging, finding some way to establish contact, which is a whole other problem. Whereas if it were a simple classroom setting, all I'd see is, okay, blank screen, what's wrong? And then it's easy to find out that there's something wrong. So that's really the difficulty, with online teaching. As for online learning, to be honest, I found it, maybe it's because of how lax Ateneo is with online learning. That's really kind of wide uh, allowance for submissions, attendance, and all of these things. Though it's actually gotten stricter this year.
Yeah, it did.
But yeah, so for me, the teach it allowed me to do more, but at the same time, teaching became more difficult. So studying, I was able to do more at my own pace, I guess. Experience ko with
Okay,
like,
so he actually, Sir Tarsi gave a tip for our batch 2022. If you're looking for a place to do your online study for college, and why? Because like what Bal said, Raiden Shogun said, ECQ is eternal community quarantine. Mukhang mahaba-haba tong quarantine dito sa Pinas. So you're going to look for online learning until way, way later on. Ateneo is kind of easy daw, sabi niya.
no,
Anyway,
I mean for
so
last year at least.
last year. Okay, in this scenario, sorry, di Ateneo. Baka maka-offend tayo ng mga Atenista dyan. Ateneans, my bad, Ateneans. Okay, now, Sir Tarsi gave pros and cons in relation to that. More on the administrative level. But for me, if I would share my experience, not only as a teacher, but a student, but also as a gamer, that's my one up. Everything in my environment is this computer. What you're looking at right now, this 3x2 setup I have here. everything is here. So everything kind of blended in together. My teaching, my learning, my 18 minutes of learning back then, and my gaming. So it was super, super, super hard for me to concentrate because I was so distracted. Like I would have one tab here. Like when I would study, I'd have one tab here, Spotify, play study music, classical study music. I hear classical makes your brain work. The alpha waves, it would it would ignite your alpha waves. But I wanted to be updated. Ano kaya nangyayari sa mga students ko? I would open Twitter. My feed na nag-work. Then I was kind of worried about the news in the Philippines. Meron din news feed dito. Maya-maya, I was waiting for my Primo Gems, for my lesson to get to 40 or so that I can do something. Medyo may game ako that's open also on either here my computer or on my phone. So for me, it was terrible. So terrible. Back then, I would separate my work, my school, and my games by my location, which is so bad. Like, I'm already this old, yet I would separate it based from location, not based from compartmentalization in my mind. I don't have that discipline, apparently. Like, when I get to my cubicle in the office, in the faculty, the one thing I always do is sleep. Just kidding. Because my work is really inside the classroom. My sleep, my cubicle. Every time Sir Nathan and Sir Tarcy comes over to the faculty, they would see me asleep or playing something. That's so weird. Then, if it's study, I would always go to the library of my law school. I would travel all the way or find a coffee shop. That's one thing that it's very bad. Like law students and medical students, they would always be seen in coffee shops and seen studying. But the thing is, it's so hard for us to compartmentalize our errands at home, everything else. So that's why we always take a whole table in coffee shops. And then when I get home, that's when I do my games, like everything, games, games, games. So everything mixed together with this pandemic. So I'm not sure if it's something that everyone here could relate to, because apparently Yana says that she can actually study very well at home. But let's hear her side without any judgment. Promise. Yana, how would you share your situation over there?
So just to compare, so nung face to face, um I would barely go home. May, maybe naging frequent nung grade 10 and nung grade 9. Pero um I would just stay like almost entirely ng school year without seeing my family kasi I don't go home during weekends kasi it's too expensive for us noon. So, yeah.
How far do you
Agree
live? Like, do you live like
um
across the country, across the international border? Like,
um no, sir.
is it safe
Um
to ask? By the way, just in case, is it safe to ask where
no,
you?
it's okay, sir.
Baka ma-dox ka namin
So
or baka doxing to or
no,
anything.
sir. Sir, so I'm from Pangasinan, and
Oh
yung
yeah, that's far.
carpool dati was maybe 1,001 trip lang. And nung time na yun kasi, di ako pinapayagan mag-commute. So, every time na uuwi ako, 2K per week. And
Oh my
syempre
gosh.
hindi namin kaya yun. So, ang naging alternative na lang ng family ko is to stay with a very, very distant yet close relative, friend, family
The
friend,
description.
which I never known before Pisay.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so well, my connection naman, yung anak nila, 2019, 2018,
Okay.
2019. So may connection naman, pero it was really hard for me to relate and be apart, I guess. So there was a time in my life na I decided I didn't want to stay with them. So nung grade 8, sa dorm lang ako. And ayun,
Mhm.
parang I was very isolated and ang daming problema in general, like financially. And ayun,
Oh,
parang I also isolated myself from my family, my from anyone actually. And ayun, there was a time
From
na,
friends. Would you say you
um,
isolated yourself from friends? Because when I would see you in school, you're kind of popular in school.
no,
You'd always have this group
sir, I'm
and
not.
hang out. And you see in chat, a lot of them are actually saying hi to you. So
Actually, konti lang friends ko, which is really, ano, pero, ano ba yun, sir, nawala na naman ako.
sorry, yeah, sorry.
um, ayun, parang, ang daming problema. And I think a big part ng, ano ko, ng school life ko, ng face-to-face, was finding the balance. Kasi I really didn't know how to balance stuff. Parang, sometimes, Um, especially yung grade 10, dun talaga ako sabi kong mag-aayos na ako and I'll start my life. But, ayun, parang I'm still, even though na I gave my effort and my time to try, parang wala pa rin, which is really sad in a lot of ways. Pero, ayun, dahil ang daming dahil hindi ko ma-find yung balance with what I want.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted to hang out with friends sa hapon, or I wanted to work on research, or if I wanted to go to theater. Parang ang daming nangyayari and hindi ko ma-balance talaga. Ayun, parang, I really struggled with that noon, and I also didn't know kung saan ako lulugar nung time na face-to-face. And, um, I really define myself kasi with who I'm with and what people think about me. I think that's one thing. Um, I define myself with based on what people think about me. So, ayun, since I knew na I'm in the bottom and everyone looked down on me, I think that really made me feel bad about myself.
Really?
Yes,
Well,
sir.
okay, I'm not negating you. If that's how you felt,
It
it's not
it
my
re-
place to say that's not how you felt. But people here are saying you're famous. Famous, actually, literally.
no,
Uh,
no. Hindi ako famous, sir. Ano ba yun, ayun, parang it it was ayun, parang ang baba ko, and that really, um, meddled with how I valued myself. And since
mhm.
nag nag-online na, I don't really see their faces,
Oh,
the faces
so
of my
are you
classmates.
saying your friends were the problems in this scenario?
Oh, no, 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 no.
Ikaw
Yung
naman.
no, I mean yung friends ko, one of the big reasons then kung why I stayed and why I am staying,
Oh, that's
kasi they
good.
they helped me a lot, especially Beryllium. Especially
Yes, shout out to
Beryllium.
Beryllium out
Shout out
there.
sa Beryllium.
Wait,
Pero
Beryllium?
ayun, hmm?
Isn't Beryllium... Who's your advisor in Beryllium?
Sir Arnie. Sir Arnie.
Ah, Sir Arnie. Okay, okay, okay. It was Sir Arnie. Oh my gosh. Okay, so Beryllium. Uh, maybe are anyone there in chat that you want to shout out with specifically from? So any Beryllium out there that could shout out as well? It's
Ayun.
kind of sad. Okay, I wouldn't say sad. But in this scenario, I guess it was something for you to figure out that. I guess it's really hard to find that balance. Not only are you busy with what you said with friends, with studies, and with the theater, but it's a whole nother thing to make an effort to balance these things. Because yes, studies already one thing, theater's already one thing, friends is already one thing, but to balance, I guess at the back of your mind, you're trying to, should I give more time to this? Should I give less time to this? Is that how you felt like there was this huge effort in balancing?
Well, in my mind, I always thought na it's always only one thing, like just pick one.
Ah,
So, there were may eras ako na I picked theater, I picked aral, I picked friends. So I don't think I really balanced it. So,
okay.
ngayong face to face, I think in a lot of ways, I eliminate. No, I did not eliminate. Pero I think
The situation eliminated itself for you, and
a lot
now you can.
of yes, sir.
Okay.
So
If you can drop the info on for everyone here. What grade did you get? What grade were you proud of last school year? Was there a
uh,
certain grade that you were proud of?
Or maybe a
what do you
subject
mean grade
or
level?
A subject, yeah, subject. Grade.
performance that you did. Maybe it was a particular
Um,
project.
wala. I don't think meron. Well, I mean, here's the
Proud
thing
of.
kasi.
It doesn't have to be like 1.0. It's something that you feel yourself, you're proud of na kahit medyo mababa to, I know in-effortan ko to. Is there
Um,
anything in online setup?
I think medyo controversial 'tong sabihin ko. Pero, I think na super liit lang ng in-effort ko nung last school year. Kasi I think I can compare it to like yung effort ko nung first 1 quarter of face-to-face, it can't compare to 1 school year, if
Ooh.
that makes sense.
It does, it
But,
does. I kind of get
um,
it.
it's not because like yung well, of course, yung, load din, of course, nahina na. Pero of course naalis din ayun, like I said, naalis yung social pressure, um, also, finance also lowered din, the need for finance lowered. And ayun, parang just to say it again, meron na akong comfort, I guess. Meron na akong comfort sa bahay kaysa sa mag-isa sa Manila, which is a really big, part of my sadness nung face to face kasi
Uh-uh.
ayun, wala talagang may support sa'kin. Wait, okay, may support ako, of course my friends, pero iba talaga yung support ng family, which,
Yeah.
hugely I did not experience. I sometimes remember, um, sa dorm, during Fridays, 'di ba, you would see dormers get picked up by their parents, ayun. They get picked up by their parents na parang uuwi na, and ayun, I would just sometimes cry na if it's either stay sa dorm or go to this house of a family friend na I don't really relate to. Ayun and if you go home, it would cost your family money. And ayun, parang in a lot of ways, I hated my life sa nung face to face, and really, really weird. Pero nung grade 10, I wished na online ako.
No, we get it's oh my gosh, as in that's a lot of things that you've unloaded. More on it's okay. It's sad. It's really sad that a student would go through this. Back then, when I was in high school, I just cared about what's the next thing that would show on my favorite anime and make sure that I will be able to catch it. But it's these things. It's these things that a lot of us don't realize that. I'm not gonna say that we're hashtag blessed that we see this pandemic in a different way to find advantages. No, no, I'm not saying that. But more on there are things that people actually kind of needed in this scenario that it helped them out figure what they needed, I guess, in their life, in their situation where they were. And I'm glad that this thing worked out for you in some way. Now, don't worry. What you're saying, I know it's a definitely outlier compared
Yes,
from
sir.
what
I
other
just
students
wanna
are.
say then something.
It's I know, but
Um,
wala naman trending na cancel Yana out there. So you're still safe. Uh,
no,
Paano
I
naman
just
yung
wanna
setup mo
say
dyan
then
sa bahay is like you've got an iPad, an iMac, and a whole different monitor. Kasi I've been seeing this on Twitter, like people having study at home setup, then like this lavish iMac, iPad, and Air, Mac Air, like all of these things in front of them. Parang Grabe naman. Do you have that set up? Just before I comment, like,
No.
is your
Well, no
no,
face to face.
no,
No face to
now
face ba, sir?
in
No face to face. Fun fact. Dun sa bahay na sinistayan ko, minsan there was a big nung grade 10 and grade 9, hindi nila
uh
ako binigyan ng internet.
oh, Fudge,
Yeah.
since 2019 na 'to, hantingan mo natin 'to.
No, oh my I'm
Just kidding.
sorry.
Just kidding.
I shouldn't have said his
No,
bad.
no, no.
Oh no.
You're grade 9, you
Anyway,
didn't need internet back then. You need the internet lang pag-research na just kidding. No, no, no.
no,
That's
sir,
just
no, you really need internet sa lahat. And the grade 7 tas grade 8, wala din akong masyadong equipment like laptop. Nung
mm.
grade 8, wala akong laptop. And nung grade 7, walang internet. So, ayun. It just adds on dun sa gaano ka-unfortunate some students are. Kasi I know na madaming students na walang finance.
True.
And
That's
also,
true.
I also discovered na I discovered na a lot of Pisay students have dysfunctional families. Like,
Yeah,
at,
that's another thing that I wanted to raise. Na it's good in your scenario that you were able to find this. You were able to discover that support from the family, while others they find it's harder to study with the family. So maybe later on we'll ask for tips on how to approach this. I know we're not going to solve their family issues. That's one thing. But maybe we have some kind of tips that could help us try to approach that scenario where we can maybe try to lead towards a better setting. Now, in this scenario, if I can summarize, Mark was able to find the joy, no, not the joy, but more on the advantages in this setup by seeing that he can multitask now. But it's also has its drawbacks that his forte was, I can't believe it's a forte for him, because in this scenario he can connect better with students if he can see them. But whenever I see him teach kasi, laging nakatalikod siya at on the
That's
whiteboard
board
while
work.
the
That's
students
lecture. I only spend like 10 minutes lecturing.
all the students are playing on their computers. I see it because I'm on the other side of the computer lab. That was just one, two, three times that I saw. Yana was able to find that she was able to eliminate some of the factors that hindered her from studying, such as how to balance these things, such as extracurriculars or the worries, the heaviest things that are the worries of the mind, such as finances, being away from the family too long, feeling this inequity when it comes to comparing yourself with others. With that, when you can put yourself in a situation that you don't have to think about it, it gets better. You can figure out to finally focus on things that you can focus on. And for me, I'm still trying to figure out what the heck is this setup that I've had. We're going to teach actually this week. Are you ready? I'm not. That's what I was supposed to start off with. Kaya pala, ask Mark and Diana if we're ready, but later on na yun, while we close. But in this scenario, the teacher, the lecturer, I wasn't paying attention during the lecture. Because again, setup was that I was what was I doing? I was studying then while this lecture was ongoing, so it was hard for me. And the hardest part was that the lecturer asked us to turn on our cameras. That's when I paid attention. Bigla na, oh. So when all of us on our cameras, ako yung tangi na naka-house clothes pa at nakayakap pa sa unan because I wasn't ready. So nakakaya yung tsura ko nun. But if Mark can share the lecturer said, because I cannot share anymore what the lecturer said. What were the plus points what were the things that we should be expecting, or how should we approach the problem when it comes to blending? Because it's something that we have to live with. COVID is something that doesn't seem to be going away because one, it's a global pandemic. Two, government incompetence. We can say it at that. And like if we compare ourselves with others, everyone else is opening their borders, everyone else is opening their schools and so on and so forth. We're stuck here. Now, instead of us wishing na sana face-to-face din tayo, sana ganyan din tayo, it only gets us so much. I mean, it's good that we wish for this. We demand for of this of the government. We demand of this of the school. By the way, the school can only do so much. We also want face to face. Some me, I'm kind of, even though I have negative things about online, I kind of like playing also while sleeping. Oh my gosh, that's the one thing that I always do. Right after my class, my lecture, matutulog na ako. Like, I'd nap because pagod na ako. Like, yun na, tulog-tulog na ako. Anyways, that's a whole different story. But, what are the things that, how do we approach this scenario? It's a problem. It's a problem that we can't figure out. How do we try to be as effective as we can be? Because the thing is, school is meant to be to study, but it feels like school is now compliance. I think. I think that's me speaking from a perspective. Maybe we should ask students as well from the chat and Yana later on. How does school feel now in this online setup? But Mark, could you share us what the speaker said? What should we do in this scenario? Yes, I'm putting you on the spot because I didn't pay attention.
I just want to be clear. You realize that the topic of the speaker wasn't classroom management, right?
It was. Wait, which speaker? Brother.
Yeah, si Brother Jimboy.
Yeah, it was classroom management.
Okay,
Wasn't
okay.
it?
No, pero kasi the point of Brother Jimboy was that he wanted to make online learning as close as possible to classroom learning. That whatever our experiences are in the classroom, we find a way to translate it into online learning. So that's why there's this thing of turning on your camera. That's why there's this thing of you can actually kasi for example, in a classroom, you're supposed to sit there and listen to the teacher. You're not allowed to have other distractions. You're not allowed to be sitting in Soksai. You're not allowed to have your English book out and preparing for your next class, as compared to what a lot of students are doing nowadays, na multitasking. So they're attending a lecture, but they have another window open, doing some other
But
things.
isn't multitasking good?
That's who.
Is it? I mean, if you're effective in one, couldn't you be effective in doing multiple things?
Okay, I don't have a link to the actual study, but a lot of studies have shown that multitasking is not effective. I can look at some other time. Parang if you were
Let's
to
ask
actually,
Yana. Yana, is multitasking good for a PSI student? PSI specifically.
Um, I I don't really know. I don't wanna speak. Again, I'm prefacing na I don't speak for the whole student body.
All right.
Pero
You? How about you? If you were
um
to answer for yourself?
so what I'm getting is like I multitask, like I'm doing chem homework while listening to a Soksai lecture. Of course, it doesn't make sense kasi you won't listen to the lecturer
Okay.
doing your chem homework or physics homework. Kasi at hand, that's more important. There's always something more important dun sa task at hand mo. And I
Okay.
don't think that's really effective kasi if you would have done your chem homework like an hour ago, you wouldn't have been doing it while
Parang
Soksai.
nilalagyan mo rin sarili mo. But okay, we get what you're getting. Oh my gosh.
Oh no, sir! Sir,
I
hindi
always
pa kayo
specify my
naging teacher.
actions. I always specify my actions na I'm multitasking. But yeah, I get where you're getting at. Go ahead,
no,
Mark.
pero honestly,
So, the effective. Go ahead.
kasi there's a difference, Kasi, okay, from an output perspective, multitasking is supposedly, according to research, less productive compared to being focused on a single task. But at the same time, you also have to recognize na people feel like they have to multitask because of deadlines. So for example, if you have two requirements that are due the next day, then you're definitely going to feel like you can only finish it if you multitask. So, but this in
So
an
it's no. So when you say that deadlines, sorry, I cut you short. My bad. It's just I'm having flashbacks that all of my students keep on doing what do they call ASWR,
For
ASWR,
research.
in my Soxai class, and I was thinking they're very diligent students taking down notes in my lecture, but when I check, parang hindi ko subject to. So okay, so that's deadline pala. That's what they
Mm.
were doing. Not
So,
multitasking. Deadline
yeah.
pala.
No, I mean, kasi for example, in that example that you gave, okay, parang you're giving a lecture and then they're doing their research. It will come to a point na they actually understand your lecture and they'll have to make it up by studying it again later. So, parang in that sense, parang mabali pa yung trabaho nila. Pero yun nga, you can understand that
Mm.
they are pressured to quote-unquote multitask because they have approaching deadlines, they have constraints. And then in an ideal scenario, they can set aside their ASWAR, their research, listen to you, and then pagka later in the afternoon, they finish their ASWAR. Pero yun nga, parang it's not always that, doesn't always work out that way.
Okay.
Okay, now
Now I
going back to
understand.
going back to yung the speaker. So I guess the reason why, or at least the reason why I brought up this as a topic, the overlap between home and class, kasi it's in the hardest part about, I think, or uh, say controversial maybe is the better word. The controversial part about online learning is that it's learning that's learning's normally as with school. That you're at school, so therefore you dedicate yourself to learning. But now in online learning, nag-overlap na ngayon yan. Parang this place that is supposed to be your home, this place for relaxation, that you bond with your family, that you use for your hobbies, is now also the place where you're expected to study, do homework, and all of your assignments. So, and parang it became, that sentiment became stronger and stronger with me nung, as the lecture went on, as the talk went on. Kasi, yeah, they were trying to find parallels. How do we implement in classroom things like maybe recitation, maybe checking if people are paying attention. So one of the things that was mentioned, maybe they can show that they're paying attention by sharing their screen when they're called. It's the equivalent of calling a student and asking, okay, what are you doing? And so if you're in person, you could easily just walk over to that desk and then look what they're doing. But if it's online, paano yun? Do you parang force a student to share their screen? And if they don't share their screen, that means may tatag sila. So obviously, that would be an equivalent, pero of course it will also be definitely stressful. Kasi yun nga, parang student is in their home, they have their setup, which they're very comfortable with, and you're basically asking them to expose themselves in that way. So, and yun nga, parang the question I think really is, um, should we let home and school overlap? Should we parang yun nga, make an effort to kind of separate our home and school life, even if it's online? We find a separate room that is not our bedroom, maybe a corner na is completely devoid of all personality, that would refer to our home, and then that's where we attend our classes, and that's where we do our work. And then pagka break time na, pagka we're at home, then that's when we leave that spot and relax. Or yeah, honestly, it's not a question I can answer because it's school invading the home. So it really is going. I think it's more valuable to listen to student sentiment on this regard.
Wait, you ended there?
Yeah,
No. Okay, I'm going to take no, not the devil's advocate, but there were several. I remember now. There were several points raised in this scenario. Na it's kind of unfair in this scenario that yes, school now interferes with the home. In this scenario, we try to make it as much as school-like for them at home. And there were some people saying that it's kind of unfair to ask of this of a student given the situation we're in. Now, okay, it's a big issue, so please hear us out all throughout. And what you're going to hear are personal opinions in this scenario. Now, some of the teachers were saying that because there was a whole issue of discussion of inequity in this scenario, you're trying to ask this much from the students, such as turning on your webcams, trying to make sure that they tutok sila, like the screen is always on for that lecture, that they have to be actually sitting in front during synchronous classes, not recorded lectures. If I remember correctly, during the lecture, they said as possible, as live as possible as you can get in between the student and teacher, because you want to see that feedback on the students' faces so that you'll be able to connect more with them. Now, if I were to raise this argument in this scenario, such as what about those students that don't have, let's say, webcams? Or what about those students that don't have enough internet? What about students that don't have a space for them to study? Like they share the room with other people as well. There's no privacy. Um, Now, if I were to share you my experience for others, in law school, in our law school, I was required to attend classes and face yung on camera. Mean to say, we were required to recite on camera. We were supposed to have the camera on us at all times. Uh, and that was so, it was very different from me because in my classes at Pisay, I was very lenient. Like, okay, if you can't turn on your camera, go ahead. If you can't attend my lecture, okay, I've recorded it. You can listen it to if you can. If you can't listen to my lecture, okay lang. Everything's in the modules. It's the lectures is really meant to supplement. Now, how come my school is mandating me to do this, uh, this, uh, this thing? And the response was, when we raised the same question, such as, what if mahina internet namin? What if wala kaming webcam? Our school, I'm not gonna do the name of school. Our school actually said that binabaan na namin yung tuition nyo. We're expecting you that the difference of the tuition that we've paid, that you're supposed to pay, you're supposed to invest in your gadgets to study. So you have no excuse to turn on your camera or say that you have mahina internet nyo or so on and so forth. And in this scenario, it was kind of infuriating because if you understand the IT infrastructure here in the Philippines, the IT problems, there's a huge problem. Like, it's really something that you as a individual you cannot resolve. I'm just lucky that the internet here in the house can support one, two, three, four users. Four users. But what about families with bigger needs or places that aren't covered? So I'm just sharing what I've experienced. But in this scenario, should we is the connection that important in relation to the inequity of what a student might be experiencing? And in this scenario, how would you answer that, Mark?
So, were you arguing against me? Because that sounds like a similar argument I was making.
Yeah, I was the argument. I'm sorry. Yeah, no, sorry. You get to experience this Sabonis live and ongoing. I hope you would excuse us. But yeah, am I going to answer my own question?
Okay, honestly, sige. I can ano. There
No,
are
but
ano.
okay. In this, in our for us teachers, and I'm sure Yan also feels the same way. As she mentioned earlier, that there are instances out there, other students are experiencing the same thing, and we're not negating that. We're really not. The policies that are being going to be implemented, especially this coming school year in Pisay, you might not know, but it's gonna be there. Uh, might feel inequitous. It might feel disconnected, feeling that there's so much demand, but you have to know what the objective is. Now, is the objective, you have to understand, is the objective that important in order to make way for some of the other sacrifices that others might be feeling? And also, how do you try to be as giving for those that, or how do you try to provide those needs for those that cannot compensate for the gap of the standard? Yeah, we were talking about standard nga pala back then. Mark.
Mhm.
Can you condense that?
The reason, okay, if I were to condense it, uh, understanding the realities that all the students are experiencing right now in the Philippines, why should we try to make the setup as close as possible when it comes to online learning?
So
Condensing it out.
you're asking me to go against the point that I was arguing against earlier.
No, no, no. It's actually supporting it. Do I make sense in the chat? Just try to help us
No,
out.
no. So basically, you're asking why we say. I'm not sure if I got myself across clearly, pero kasi ako, I was kind of questioning up to what point should we kind of make uh school
Sessions.
make home a school.
Yeah.
I
Ah,
mean,
right, right,
as
right, right.
so parang anything I feel like, and am I coming across as pro student here? Kasi that was kind of my parang I think that's my position.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Ish.
Kasi okay,
Yeah,
yun
yeah.
nga,
in the
kasi
middle.
In the middle daw.
okay. Yeah, I mean kasi yun nga, I suppose I was giving a more neutral stance na parang I'm questioning, okay, parang hanggang saan ba? Parang how much are we going to make the home a school? Okay,
Mm-mm.
fair. I come across neutral. Okay. So, ako, okay, should we have, what's parang, should we have standards? Parang, should the school be able to ask for this level of commitment from the students that they should turn on cams or that they should, have a dedicated, they should attend synchronous sessions? Uh, the school can set it. The school is well within the rights to uh, dictate its own standards that same way that it's able to dictate na so such and such is a passing grade and so forth. At the same time, it needs to be a standard that is reasonable. Parang if it's already a standard na parang you're considering a 90% 2.5, that's definitely going to cause a lot of trouble. So can't do that. So is definitely allowed to set standards. It should adjust to what students are teaching within and then allow for opportunities and exceptions for those who are also unable to meet that level of rigor. Discord is
Okay, that's why I
yeah.
didn't understand. No, I got disconnected. Sorry.
Okay, where did I stop?
Um, wait, sir, do you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Here.
Don't worry.
I
Okay.
think it's Sir. I think it's Sir Tarcy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
it's
was it
certain.
was me. No, kasi nag-freeze
Okay.
yes. So, where did I stop?
10 seconds ago. I can't remember what you were saying.
So basically, the school is allowed to set standards. The school is supposed to adjust those standards so that it's realistic and attainable by the general students. And for those students that are still unable to reach those particular standards because of particular circumstances, there should be avenues for them to make up for it. So, yun nga, parang doon na pumapasok yung exception, yung mga swans, etc. etc.
I kind of get it. Don't worry. I kind of get it. I assure you, I get it. Did I get this correct? So you said policies that the school places there. Now, don't before we finish up what you said, quick survey. Yes or no? Mark, webcam on. Yes or no?
As in just plain yes or no, not even
Uh,
not even conditionals. Kasi
Yeah,
honest,
yeah.
okay, I want the webcam on, pero I'm not gonna
Okay.
force it.
Okay, okay. Deadlines, yes or no?
Yeah.
Hard deadlines.
Yes.
Yes or no? Yes. Deductions for late submissions. Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. Yana. Webcam on. Yes or no?
I think yes.
Oh, okay. Very controversial. Hard deadlines. Yes or no?
No,
Okay. Deductions for late submissions. Yes or no?
no. I'm
No.
sorry. I'm really
Um,
sorry.
What
No,
other
I get.
policies can I think of? No, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah, that's these are perspectives that we have to consider when we make policies. We have to understand why would a student say no, and how do we convince them to say yes, or how can we make the students convince us to give to give constructive feedback in order for us to reframe the policy to cater to their needs. Fast talk, sorry. What other policies? Why are those the only three policies I can think of na mala? Kasi the other policies that are very controversial, I talk about the 10-second hug, the um PDPA. PDPA? No, that's PDP laban. PDAs in school and absences and so on and so forth. Uh, I guess those are the only controversials on online setup. Uh, oh my gosh, am I also disconnected from the students in this scenario that I don't understand what they're going through? I did read the report regarding student. So, am I disconnected? Hello? Why is no one? Okay, so that was my fast talk. Now, in this scenario, I want to ask Yana in this scenario, how do you feel like in this scenario? How do we make it more better for the student? Because for you, it kind of worked out for you. How do we make it feel more better for a student to learn at home?
Um, I don't know. Well,
It's not something that you. We're not saying that you would recommend for others, but why is it working for you? And maybe someone out there across the rainbow would be able to think, oh, what Yana is going through, maybe I could apply it to my life and see if it works. Remember, we're not saying that all the things that we say here works. Me and Sir Tarcy, again, we're legendary. That's why some of the things might not apply to you. We're old. That's what I have to say.
well,
But for you, Yana, what's happening for you that you could share to us that maybe what would work for you at home?
um, do you mean, sir, like, paano pataasin yung grades mo or just to be in touch with yourself?
No. So see, that's the thing that I'm afraid of. Mark, how would you say
Oh,
that? The first thing that comes into
what?
Yana's mind is higher grades. Is that what we want of our students?
Not really,
No,
not really.
no, Yan. Is this what we to answer Darcy? Because it's important. What you raised was very important. Do we want our students to think that we have to have high grades?
um, no naman, but uh,
That was the first thing that you said. Remember, the subconscious mind is always the things that we subconsciously say, we
um,
unconsciously say. So it's your subconscious that might have been speaking out loud. Now, as a teacher, for me, that's worrying. Because for me, I kind of don't want you to worry about grades. But as someone who
well,
would give
sir,
recommendations for college applicants, maybe you kind of want to focus on your grades also.
Gosh,
Because you
boss.
might be your bosses. Okay, pause.
well,
Pause.
ngayon, sir, okay, do, uh, do I talk now?
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
Okay. No, it's okay, sir. Ayun, I just think na yung ma-advice ko is always think na don't believe people when they say numbers don't or grades don't matter because they do. They 100% do. Um, and also sa lahat ng gagawin mo, it matters. Um, of course, there are outliers na, oh, because ganyan or because ganyan. I mean, because yung family niya, may pera, uh, napasok niya yung college na to. Of course, may mga outliers. Pero I just think na you should also think about your future. Kasi right now, your grades do define you. I really don't agree dun sa sinasabi ng uh,
Ng
social
mga teachers
media
ko.
na no social media na it doesn't matter because it does kasi right now I think na hindi ako makakapasa sa kahit anong college dahil sa grades ko. So, ayun, parang if you get in touch with what you really want as ASAP, I think magiging easy for you in the long run. This might be wrong, pero
No,
that's what
no,
I think.
you're right.
That's what I think right now. Kasi of course, why would, let's say, Ateneo, uh why would Ateneo
The
make a
Ateneo, the
student
Ateneo.
pass? I'm sorry. UP. Why would UP pick someone with like failing grades sa lahat? Uh, 'Di ba? Like it like ako like I'm upfront about that. Like why would UP choose me over someone who had higher grades and who is more promising? So I guess just right now dahil I guess relatively mataas yung grades ko. Just think dahil ngayon lang ako nag-isip na, kailangan ko na talaga magseryoso dahil sa college. Just think of that, I guess, ASAP, just to know where you're going.
Now I'm truly, truly at a loss of words in that scenario because
But
I think this is what we needed. What Yana speaks real talk. As in, if I do fast talk, this is the real talk that I feel like we kind of felt disconnected now with the students. That I would personally say that grades don't matter, but when she said it, yeah, I kind of think it does because for me in my scenario, I could have passed the bar exam had it been for 5 points, for that 3 points, and for that 1 point in that scenario. I could have been able to become a lawyer. Who would be, what kind of law firm would be able to take someone that would have taken the bar exam 4 times? So I guess Diana speaks the truth in that scenario. If you try to frame your mind in a realism that ways that you should take things seriously now. Yes, the pandemic is happening. Yes, we have to be as forgiving as much as possible. But what about those things that won't budge for you? Do we have to try to beg at their mercy to try to give in to us? Or are we the ones to move? Now, it's so much to ask for ourselves to move, especially given the factors that we have. But does it hurt for us to start having this realistic frame of mind to understand that know what is important right now and focus on that? Yes, the Philippines is in a pandemic. Should we add that in our worries? It is worrying, I know. But what can we do now to help out? You can be an activist, that's true. You can be an activist online, but you can also study at the same time. You can't be an activist out there. Okay, I'm not saying I'm not against activism, by the way, but try to be an activist in the things that you can do. Because it's hard to become an activist when it's only just words out there. You can be an activist through works, through how you do your actions. You can be an invested activist, mean to say, I really have to work on this so that when I can make a change, I'm ready to make that change. So, um, okay, I'm very dumb stuck with what Diana said, but it hurts, but it's kind of true. And I guess we as teachers kind of needed to hear it that this is what's going on in the heads of our students, especially students that have been there, had felt the grades hurt them. Me, I guess I'm in denial that it didn't hurt me that much because I can keep on trying at my stage. But what about for those that couldn't, that knows that this might be the last straw? This is my last leg in this game. Otherwise, I'm out, and it would be very detrimental against my future if I'm out. How about you, Mark? Would you say that grades don't matter in this scenario?
Okay. Yeah, to start with that point, uh, I mean, taking the middle ground, pero okay. Thing is, I think the problem is people are dichotomizing when they don't have to. Because for me, the way that I would answer that question is, it's not that grades don't matter. Grades do matter, definitely. They matter a lot, like really a lot. That people should invest a lot of time in it. it's not the only thing that matters. If you're throwing away your health, your mental health, your comfort, everything just to get a good grade at school, parang uh, if you're suffering because of that, then definitely, which is why actually, yun nga, parang you're asking us earlier, on cam or it's, I would be of the opinion that you start strict, you start demanding, parang you set high standards, but at the same time, you also be willing to forgive yourself if you have to, yun nga, there are conditions that require you to, uh, maybe ease up on certain things. So, for example, uh, on cam, yeah, parang on cam, it will help in the class, make you more attentive, make sure that you're not distracted. It's kind of a security, parang it's a way to make sure that you're paying attention, not only for the teacher but also for the student who knows is being watched. Hard deadlines. So yun, yeah, parang it'll help to better in scheduling. If you can't meet the deadline, as in it's physically impossible to meet the hard deadline, then submit late. Parang ideally there should be allowances for late submissions, regardless of it's online or in person. So so in the context of those who are taking their entrance exams this year, or there's no entrance exams, pero college applications. Is it important to get into a college that you want? Will it matter if you pass the university that you want? Yes, definitely. I'm not gonna say that university doesn't matter, or it doesn't matter which university you go to. It does matter. But is it the end of the world if you don't reach that university that you want to? I mean, something's going to happen. Regardless, you're going to find yourself. You're going to have to find some place to go to, or find something to do. If regardless of, so if you don't pass, then you go to your second choice, or maybe you do something else. You start a business. I don't know. But so your your plans will definitely drastically change. Pero I guess yun nga, parang I want to put in that perspective na our life is not all about the grade. It's definitely very, very important. It determines a lot about our life. If I didn't go to UP, I probably wouldn't be a teacher right now. And I wouldn't imagine what I'd be doing right now if I wasn't a teacher. But at the same time, yun nga, parang if that hadn't happened, I might have gone somewhere. Okay, so I think my connection
Can
poor.
I step out?
Wala si Yana.
Did you? Oh no! Did she walk out? Is this a statement? Yana, are you here? Did you say something? We did ask her to flag us if there's anything that she would find. Again. Oh my gosh. I hope our audience won't interpret this as something that is. Yana, I hope you're still there. If anyone can contact her, um, go on. You were saying.
Yeah, I was pretty much, that was my winding down already. So
Okay, for others as well in the chat, to try adding them just in case. It for me, speaking for experience, that grades kind of did matter when I did get kicked out from my college. Then I went back to that university to show them that I can graduate from them when I did with a master's degree. So, grades don't really matter. That's true, but in this
no,
scenario,
grades matter.
yeah,
Grades matter.
grades do matter. Grades matter, but in this scenario, I kind of figured out that I wanted to go back to show them that it did matter to me that I did get kicked out, but I wanted to show them that I can do it. Which, luckily enough, I was able to get the chance to come back in that university, enroll in College of Law, and then show them. Kinaya ko. It took me a while though. It did, but I did. I did graduate. Yana, are you there? There. Let's go to send a statement out to us. I hope if it's a statement that she's standing up for herself, good for her. But I hope we can figure it out. What happened? Is it your net? I'm blaming your net.
I mean, I'm talking to you, aren't I? So shouldn't be.
um, what, what can we do?
Um,
Messaging. Uh,
she's offline
uh,
on Discord, so
okay, so it might be a statement. We don't know yet until we hear from her on Twitter. From everyone else, I hope that you could. Um, how is your setup going for you as well? For others, it may be a plus. For others, it might not be that much. I know others that were affected really heavily with the pandemic, with the flood that had happened last year, and the worries really. But there's one thing that was left with me with regard to how should we approach this. Brother Jimboy, when he was asked the question with regard to the inequities, as a teacher, you have to recognize the inequities. It doesn't mean that you have to push them up all the way to the standard because it puts them now on a spotlight. It makes them highlight what are their differences as opposed to others. But does it mean that we also have to lower everyone else so that everyone feels equal? In this scenario, you're limiting potential. I like how Brother Jimboy said it actually, because what he said was that make everyone do their 100% and keep on pushing them. Push them to what they can do, not what they couldn't do and force them out. No, no. Because when they reach their 100%, they get to explore what else can they add in order to help themselves, or what else they can ask for help with in order to help themselves up. And it's very difficult. It's very difficult. Like what Diana said, it's very hard to ask for help. But Brother Jimboy said it very well in a way that you don't try to focus this as a institutional level that everyone will be able to get through this, because not everyone will get through this, will experience this equally. We're experiencing this at different settings, so you have to understand this. But if you can try to make them, each student push each for themselves, give 100%, that's what we can try to do. Hi, Anna. She's here. She's here, everyone. She's here. She didn't step out. I hope she didn't step out. Uh,
Sir,
Yana,
sir, hello. Hear
inisip
me.
ng mga tao. Yeah, we hear you. Inisip ng
I'm
mga
so
tao.
sorry, sir. Sir, umulan kasi. So,
Oh, yeah, we can hear it.
nawala ng internet for a while.
No,
So,
it's
wait.
okay. We understand. Don't worry.
That's so funny, sir. Wait, I can't see, sir.
I think it's the internet
Sir
because we can't see you
Tarcy.
as well. Um,
Okay.
oh,
Hi,
there you.
sir.
Wow. Okay. The
Nagpa nagpalit ako ng place
background. Yeah,
kasi
yeah.
mas malakas yung internet here. So,
Okay.
ayun, hi.
Hi.
mm,
Um, we're not gonna ask her
That's
Tachi to recap that. Don't worry. Do you want to recap everything that you
wait,
said,
okay, I'm so sorry.
I
Mark?
mean,
Do you want to recap?
I mean, ano, I think she was here naman until that point, ano eh.
Yeah, yeah. Now, Yana, Mark, what question would you now ask Yana based on what you said?
Ask, um, hmm, yes.
This isn't a recitation, don't worry. We're not asking for it.
I mean, I can't think. Ang ask, yeah, I can't think of it. Kasi, I guess that's
I'm
ano.
really sorry.
No. It's okay. And yun nga, parang I think yun nga, it's good that I could hear yung sentiment na yun nga. Especially, I think that might be a prevailing sentiment considering that you're the graduating batch.
Yeah.
And it's good that I need to be that teachers need to be made aware na that
Oh,
could be
really,
a
we
mindset
need to
of
be
ano,
aware.
that could be
Guys,
the mindset of students.
be like Yana. Straight up, both of us couldn't find the words to answer what she said because it was a reality that kind of hit us. Now, that's what we want our community to be like. We want people to vocalize, try to reach out, try to make us know what are you going through. Now I know me, I couldn't go through all my messages on Facebook and Twitter. I'm trying my best really. But if you can try to reach out, maybe here in chat as well, try to, if you agree or even if you say disagree, at least we know maybe we're touching chords that we have to dive into more and understand where are you coming from. Because Yanas was a very revelation for us. We didn't know that this is actually happening to some of our students. We keep on being this optimistic one that would say grades matter, but also Sir Darcy said that um, grades don't matter. Oh, yeah. You have to not look at this in uh, polaristic setting that it's only north and south. It's only one way or the other. It's only Sith or the Jedi. In this scenario, you have to try to approach it in a holistic way that there are other ways to approach it. So, palpasin namin this today. So, nahiya tuloy ako kay Yana. Nahiya din ako sa lahat ng mga fans sa dinero ni Yana. This is, are we losing viewers by the way? I have to check. We lost viewers. Oh my gosh.
Oh,
I hope it was just a win. But okay. Last notes before last things that we want to say on the topic, and then cooling question that I want to ask everyone before we leave. What are your last notes on the topic? Mark. Sorry.
Fine, sige. Okay, ano. Ako, so with regards to the overlap of classroom, it's something that students will definitely struggle through. They might want to find some way to separate the home from school. Yep, what was their leisure place is now becoming a place that's being mixed in with their schoolwork. As for policy that would dictate parang to regiment how school will be at home, I would say na parang I would kind of extend a little more into what Brother Jimboy says na parang it's easier, well, I think it's more me, parang it's easier to relax or find exceptions for things. You might have high standards, pero there are ways naman to kind of find your place in it na hanggang dito lang kaya mo, or parang you can for an exception or look for an excuse na if your condition calls for it. But otherwise, you try your best to live up to a particular standard because we know that education is important, that your grades are important, but of course, respecting everyone's circumstances, it's not the only thing that's important. And therefore, we all have to find our correct kind of balance, even with these unifying policies, these broad policies.
I'm Mark.
Anyway,
Okay,
that's it.
Yana, if you were to give a few words regarding the topic, what would it be?
I think that just want to reiterate na if you have problems, especially I know na financial, and also in ACAD, no one will really step up. I'm sorry, but the truth is that teachers will really not teachers will really not step up and go the extra mile, I guess, and think that you should be awakened from the truth na it's only you, especially even the teachers go that extra mile, it's only up to you to change. And it even if even if the school will change some of their policies, I think that um it can only do so much, and I think that it's only you who can change, like permanently and drastically, I think.
Very well said. I
Okay.
really like talagang sampal sa mukha sa aming mga teachers. But no, she does say, what she does say
No,
the truth. She does say the truth, honestly. Now, if I were to say something, by the way, we're not scrambling her feed. We're not trying to censor her or anything. That's really her internet or Sir Tarcy's internet. But I hope her message did come through YouTube. If I were to end it on my side, I would say be fair. Be fair to your family. Be fair mean to say try to make them understand what you're going through. Also, try to be fair to the school. Make them understand what you're going through as well. But most importantly, be fair to yourself. Try to figure out what do you really want and what can you demand from it. If you need something and you want that thing for you, you have to go out and ask for it. Because like what Yana said, maybe people just don't really understand. Maybe your family doesn't understand the setup you're going at. Doesn't mean that you'll brood all the way and just let it happen. No, be fair to yourself. Mean to say it's your right because you're a student here in Pisay. You have to focus on your studies. I know that they're going to ask you to do some errands and duties and so on and so forth. But try to be fair in a way that try to make them understand. And if you couldn't make them understand on your part, that's when you start asking for help. Same goes for the school. If they're trying to ask too much from you without them understanding your situation, they won't actually go to your house and figure out what's happening to you. No, you have to also be fair in a way that be honest and let them know you're going through these things so that they can make the adjustments on what's going at you at home. So if I can encapsulate it, be fair. Now that was unfair to my co-hosts because they were asked first and I was able to prepare my answer. But something that let's go off on the question that I'll be the one asking the question, answering the question immediately. The last question, in order that we can end at a light note, not really for me, but the lighter note, which is how are you preparing for school? We know that the school is starting on Wednesday for all of us. Teachers have been starting their trainings and so on and so forth last week, but facing the students online is a whole different thing. And what are we feeling right now? Because it's something that I realized that we didn't do earlier. We didn't connect. We didn't show, would I say, vulnerability? Would I say our true selves? But more on how do we feel about this upcoming school year? And it's going to start on Wednesday. Are we ready, prepared? Are we warmed up as what we were trying to get, as the objective was for this channel that we were doing for the whole summer, for the past 4 weeks? So if I were to answer it, I'm really worried. I'm really, really worried because I'm a homeroom teacher for this coming school year. Last school year, they said that they needed more homeroom teachers because they flat out were stressed because mental health. Teachers went through a lot of mental health issues. That's why they opted not to be homeroom teachers. And me not being a hero, but more on answering the call for more homeroom teachers, I opted to go for it. Now, I'm not shaming Sir Tarcy who opted out to become a homeroom teacher. I just realized that no, wait, hindi ka pala nag-homeroom si Mark. No, it's a real problem that needs to be addressed. Mental health of teachers needs to be addressed. That's why they needed to opt out of home, and other teachers needs to step in. But I'm worried. I mean to say, I know the policies are set. I know everything has been prepared. But in all honesty, I feel like I'm not yet that ready. When Wednesday comes, I have to put on a face that I'm confident in meeting my students, but I just hope that in the next 2 days, I muster up the confidence I can have because face to face is very different when it comes to online setup. And I have to tell you honestly, even though if it's face to face, I'm also worried when I'm facing my students. Here, it's a bit more easier because I only see a screen. But what I'm more worried about is more on will I be able to give them the same amount of care that I had given them back then? It's unfair for me to compare on what I could do back then in face to face and what I can do now. But will I be able to give my 100% like I did before? So that's the all honesty what I'm going through right now. Yana, our co-host, how do you feel for Wednesday?
Um, well, I guess if I would put myself in a lot of people's position, I would really feel scared kasi ayun, people are advocating for hard deadlines and um more interactive and more strict rules. And of course, I would say not it's okay for me, but I know that there are people who are really struggling. And well, of course I would not wish on anyone what I've gone through and the struggle that they're going through. Mm, That's why I'm also scared, but at the same time, what can you do? I mean, of course you can help, pero it's just reiterating what we've said na. It, it's gonna start with them, and no, a lot of people can't right now because because of the pandemic and yung fear na one of your relatives gets it is very stressful. And I don't know, parang I think it's just really hard right now, I think. And I think the admin should know that then. Of course they know, pero I think they should also reflect their sympathy to us by actually listening and implementing what they already know. So that's why I'm at. Okay.
That's
So
Joshua.
that
No, no, no.
Josh, there.
I was going to agree with what Yana said. Except that boomer me accidentally pressed the disconnect button. Sorry, Yana. But I agree. I agree with what you said. That we really hope that they'll be able to reflect that their sympathy, that they know what's happening throughout the students. Thank you very much for that message. Mark, how about you? How do you feel about Wednesday?
Ask what this is supposed to be ending it on a lighter note.
Oh yeah, is it not? Aren't you going to end it lighter?
Okay, sige. Um, maybe not on a light note, but a hopeful. So there are a lot of works. There are a lot of things that we're unsure of. Yun nga, parang and that we feel are out of our control, and that are out of our control. So students, uh, suppose don't have that control to dictate policy as much as they'd like to. And yet they like to have their voices heard, their opinions heard, like to be able to make changes that would accommodate their circumstance, and yet the school they're not able to do so. Um, School on the other hand, yun nga, parang uh, honestly, a lot of things feel rushed, even from teachers' end, and same on my side. Still rushing to prepare a lot of things. I still need to prepare offline modules for my students, and so and there are a lot of worries, definitely. But at the same time, I feel like as much as we said that the school has standards, so on and so forth, we have to perform and all these. Yeah, like what was mentioned earlier. What is your 100%? What is it that you can give? If it's yeah, parang if you're giving 100% and it seems that you're still not meeting the standards of the school, don't beat yourself up about it, because yun nga, parang that is your 100%. Beat yourself up if you're giving 60% and you're underperforming because of it. Because that's 40% that could have done more. I mean, don't beat yourself to the point of not getting up anymore. Pero you have to hold yourself to your standard of what is 100%. And if you find that your 100% seems to not be enough, uh, know that there are accommodations. Educate. There's a reason that education is it's not a bachelor of science. If you take it, it's an art degree. It's not a strict thing. Okay, you don't do this, then okay, bagsak na. No, education is an art, and it's a matter of determining what is it that a student can learn, it is that a student can handle, and how does it measure up to a standard of education. So there are always ways that, but yeah, you have to recognize that you have to bear some of the responsibility in terms of if you're not performing as the school expects you to, then things would go a lot smoother if you yourself reached out for help, and that you have to recognize that you yourself have a right to help, to being helped, that you can even demand help, even. And uh, just no, so yun nga, we might all feel unconfident. We might all feel that things are we're so unprepared. But I mean, these are warm up classes, and when you're warming up, I mean, just because you warmed up doesn't mean that you're prepared. It doesn't. Di naman pagka warm up mo ginaganahan ka na para mag-exercise. It doesn't always work that way. It just means that even though maybe you're not feeling it, you might not feel like you're up to exercising, but your body, because you've gone through the motions, because you've done your stretches, because you've done uh, uh, your stretches, your initial warm ups, it might not feel like it, but your body is prepared. So in the same way that uh, for our worries in school, we might not be looking forward to it. We might not be might not feel like we're prepared. But since we all have our ways of preparing, we've all done our warm ups that are for us. Maybe some of you have schedule, maybe some of you have uh, something else planned out. So at the very least, we are as prepared as we can be. Uh,
I feel like I should have prepared a script beforehand for that. But what Mark said, with less qualifications, we're all trying our best, really. We're all being prepared. In this scenario, I guess the lighter note, I guess I was going to say was that I thought the warm ups were already my exercises. Like, whenever I do stretching, quits na ako, okay na ako for the day. But yeah, it doesn't mean that you're done. It means that you're just getting there. And you'll get there eventually. Uh, be it the optimistic mind that we keep on imposing, be it the realistic mind that Yana has shared with us. We hope that we'll be able to all get through this thing together. Honestly, we really do. I really want to see you guys after this pandemic, that we get to see through this. With that said, I'm gonna end at a bad note that we're at the record high in the pandemic right now. We have to remind everyone it's not a service; it's our service advisory that please everyone take care of yourselves. We want. Yana said that we're all worrying about each other. We were all worrying about our relatives, our friends, and so on and so forth. We as teachers, we're also worrying about our students, our friends, and colleagues as well. But with the with the pandemic going on, with the record high of 22,000 cases, active cases right now, new cases. We just hope that in the small way that we can do as individuals, we can't move policies. We can voice out our opinions. That's true, but we ourselves try to stay at home as much as possible. Try to keep yourselves safe as much as possible. Try to keep your loved ones as safe as possible. I know it's hard, it's difficult to keep them at home, try to keep them safe, but in your own way, figure out how to keep them safe. I'm saying this when I actually went out in order to, but I did run errands. If I would justify myself, I ran errands. I had to run errands, but um, we were safe. As in we had to be. I couldn't even kiss my girlfriend because I'm just afraid that we're both very careful. So that's how much sacrifice we're both doing as well. Uh, I hope you can do your sacrifice too. Just kidding. Hindi mo ako bitter or anything. But before we end, we want to thank our Patreons. One by one, we'll go through the comment list. Nathan, Tarcelo, thank you very much.
I will
James,
server mute you.
Elijah shouted out Yana for their earlier on the comments. Bianca, Jose, Pauline, Bianca, all our regulars. But we saw new ones like I saw Arwen was here and Isa, Charles. Oh my gosh, the photon kids. Neil, Yeah, wow, that's new. So, we hope you enjoyed. I know medyo makalat yung stream namin. There are a lot of truth bombs dropped. We only see 6 likes in the video right now, so it kind of hurts us. Just kidding. Uh, but yeah, please stay safe, stay well. We really want to see you guys, and whatever we can do to help you out, we'll be here to help you. Oh, by the way, we're going to announce, yay, our present for batch 2022. Sakto nandito si Diana. We're going to make a stream. Mark, I'll give you the honors of mentioning it.
I mean, I haven't confirmed the participants yet, so
No, no, go, go, go. But it's something so that the participants also know that we've announced it.
okay. Anyway, so the next few, the next few Tarcy Talks will be more directed towards the graduating batch. So we'll be inviting students to talk about college applications, learning online in college, international applications, so all of these things. So these will be for the next few weeks. So now that it's college application season, so hopefully it's something that will help you out.
Grabe naman. I thought you promoted more. Like, do you want to know how it feels like to study abroad? Do you want to know how to live in Japan and study at the same time? Do
That's
you want
your
to see
job.
how to take up how our alumni are taking up their studies abroad and or maybe here? Find out. Man, you have to spice up. That's why we only have 10 likes. Thank you very much. But yeah, thank you everyone. Yana, last words for your fans out there. Anything you want to say?
Sa mga fans ko, thank you for supporting me. Ayun lang.
And thank you, Yana. We have part of the program, the certificate of appreciation. Where's that? Where's that certificate? I thought we were going to hand it to her, right? We just kidding. Even though it's not in paper, we truly, truly appreciate you joining us. We actually, when you tagged us, we were at a kind of low. We wanted to end our channel. No, we're not starting any drama or anything. But you kind of helped us realize that we have listeners offline as well. So thank you. It means a lot to us. For us, me and Mark. This is something that we just thought that we think that could help. We know we're talkative. We know we give off a lot of advice, but it's something that we hope that we could share. And having you on board, throwing those really heavy statements, it really gave us a perspective. And I think that was what we really wanted from you. So thank you very much. Mark, say thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you din, sir.
And for the teachers that had actually gave the go signal for Yana, that cleared Yana for us, Ma'am Edlen and Sir Nathan, thank you for helping us enlighten, connect Yana to us. So thank you. So that's it. We hope to see you next week. It's gonna be the start of classes. Ngarag-ngarag na to. We hope we'll be able to be free enough to stream next week, but we're really trying. We hope that we can do our best for whatever we can do. Oh, but I'll be gone soon, so we might be looking for co-hosts. So any alumni out there who would like to co-host the Tarcy Talks, to give more structure as opposed to the kalat that I am, I'll be gone on October and November. As I take the bar, we'll see if I don't think I can. We'll see. Um, we'll see. But if you're interested in trying out, or if you want to promote your stuff, if you want to try to, practice your own podcasting skills, this is your avenue. Use our platform and gain more likes. So, anyways, Mark, could you sign us off?
Okay, everyone. Thanks for coming, and we'll see you next week. Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone. Bye, bye, bye. Yeah.